Imagine an island so dangerous or so secret that stepping onto its shores could get you arrested or even killed. These aren't movie sets or fictional locations. They are real islands scattered across our planet, completely off-limits to ordinary people. Some protect uncontacted tribes, others hide military secrets, and a few remain forbidden for reasons that governments rarely discuss. Today, we're counting down 5 of the world's most isolated islands that almost nobody is allowed to visit, and the shocking truth behind each one. Stay until the end, because the final island is so mysterious that even satellites reveal very little about what happens there. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on such interesting and mysterious information. Let's go. Bouvet Island, Norway. Snowy peaks and slushy waves aren't typically what come to mind when you hear island, but this subantarctic landmass is as isolated as they come. Located deep in the South Atlantic, around 1,000 miles from the nearest land, Bouvet Island is widely considered the most remote place on Earth. Covered in glaciers and formed from a shield volcano, it lacks all the usual creature comforts. There's no electricity, no airport, and certainly no harbor, just churning, icy waters that make landing a boat almost impossible. On the other hand, seals, penguins, and seabirds regularly call Bouvet Island home, making it an unexpected but important nature sanctuary. Aside from the treachery of it all, Norway heavily restricts access to the island for this exact reason: to protect the fragile ecosystem and teeming wildlife population. North Sentinel Islands, India. You may not have heard of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in India, but you're most likely familiar with the troubling tale of the American who tried to introduce Diet Coke to the isolated Sentinelese tribe. The reason that the attempted act was so problematic is because of how far removed the scene of the crime, North Sentinel Island, really is. And we don't mean in the literal sense, as it's just about 20 to 30 miles away from nearby tourist hubs like Port Blair and Wandor. The real isolation stems from how long the Sentinelese people have been cut off from society, up to 60,000 years, meaning their culture and even genetic makeup are significantly different from that of modern humans. That's why the island is off limits. It's not just a choice, it's a necessity for survival. The Indian government banned anyone from visiting to protect both the Sentinelese and outsiders. For starters, the tribe is famously known for their fierce protection of the island, bows, arrows, and all. At the same time, they have zero immunity to our everyday viruses. A single handshake or a shared drink could unintentionally wipe out their whole population. Ni hao, Hawaii. With post-storm damage and housing crises affecting the Hawaiian Islands, now is not the best time to visit places like Maui and Oahu. But then again, that's always been the case for their neighbor, Ni hao, more commonly known as the Forbidden Island of Hawaii. Ni hao is so close to Kauai, with its much warmer nickname, the Garden Isle, that you can see its silhouette from a boat tour off the Na Pali coast. Yet you won't find a single tourist on its shores. Access is reserved for residents, invited guests, and the island's owners, the Robinson family, a boundary influenced not by cultural taboo, but protection and a promise. When the Robinsons purchased Ni hao in the 1860s, they pledged to keep the island secluded, prioritizing the preservation of traditional Hawaiian life over outside influence. That means no resorts, no outsiders, no tours, just untouched nature, and maybe a few feral pigs. Snake Islands, Brazil. Remote doesn't always signify danger, but snake sure does. Translating to Snake Island in English, Brazil's Ilha da Queimada Grande is the one place on this list you'll actually be relieved is off limits. Located about 90 miles off the coast of São Paulo, This island is home to one of the highest concentrations of venomous snakes on the planet, including the infamous golden lancehead viper. Here, the snakes call the shots. The Brazilian government keeps the island under lock and key, requiring a special permit and a doctor in tow for the few researchers allowed to set foot on its shores. North Brother Island, New York. Manhattan isn't the only island in New York. Right in the East River is an eerie, abandoned mass of land that once served as a hospital for quarantinable diseases from the 1880s to the mid-20th century. North Brother Island. Today, you won't find brothers, sisters, or any living souls. Instead, you'll find a crumbling forest of ruins reclaimed by nature, and according to some, the spirit of Typhoid Mary, who died there in 1938. While it's technically a part of the Bronx borough, North Brother Island isn't exactly the hottest spot on the map. The city has gate-kept it for decades, and for good reason. The island doubles as a sanctuary for nesting birds and a safety buffer for humans, keeping the public at a distance from the crumbling, dangerous structures that still haunt the shoreline. Gangkar Puensum, Bhutan. Standing at an impressive 24,836 feet, Gangkar Puensum is the world's highest unclimbed peak. Being the first person to summit a mountain is the dream of many a mountain climber, but ascending Gangkar Puensum will probably remain a dream because it's actually illegal to set foot on its snowy slopes. In 1994, the Bhutanese government banned the climbing of mountains over 6,000 meters, roughly 19,800 feet. The ban was implemented out of respect for Bhutanese spiritual beliefs. Gods are thought to call the mountains home, so these high peaks are considered sacred. 4 years later, in 1998, a Japanese team made an attempt to climb Gangkar Puensum from the Tibetan side, but the permit was withdrawn before they set foot on the mountain because of objections from the Bhutanese government. To this day, no one has ever stood on the mountain's summit, Shiprock, New Mexico. The ragged ridges of Shiprock, a monolith that dramatically rises 1,583 feet into the air, once made it a huge draw for rock climbers seeking a challenge. But the scenic volcanic plug is also deeply entwined with the legends of the Navajo Nation. The mountain is called Tse Bit Ai in Navajo, which translates to rock with wings, and climbing it is regarded as culturally disrespectful. When an accident in 1970 left 3 climbers severely injured, it was decided to ban the climbing of not only Shiprock, but of all monoliths and spires in the Navajo Nation. But not everyone respected the ban, and in the early 1970s, a man died while illegally climbing the monolith. Death in these sacred areas can contaminate the space in the Navajo worldview, explains Navajo climber Len Nessifer. Illegal climbs continued to be such a problem that a press release was issued by the Navajo Nation Parks and Recreation Department in 2006 to reiterate the importance of the ban. Even more serious than the possible physical harm illegal climbs could pose is the religious damage done to the Navajo people by these non-Navajo visitors. Puig Major, Mallorca. The highest mountain on the Spanish island of Mallorca is Puig Major, but for decades, hikers haven't been allowed to climb to the top of the scenic viewpoint. In 1957, the U.S. Air Force turned the peak into a military base, with a golden-domed radar station positioned at the very highest point, 4,741 feet above sea level. The U.S. military left the base in 1993, but the Spanish Army took over and the summit remained off-limits to hikers. However, there was once a one-way to legally reach the top: participate in the Kill the Hill bike race. In 2024 and 2025, a few hundred cyclists were allowed to race to the very top of the peak. Sadly, the 2026 event has been cancelled and its future is uncertain. meaning that Puig Major's summit is once again entirely out of bounds. Uluru, Australia. Standing in the middle of the Australian outback is Uluru, once called Ayers Rock, an impressive sandstone monolith that stretches 1,142 feet into the air. Uluru has long been a sacred mountain to the Aboriginal Anangu peoples, but in the 1930s, the Australian National Travel Association started to promote climbing the vibrant red rock to attract tourists. The marketing plan worked, and soon flocks of people were descending on Uluru and scaling its steep walls without regard for its spiritual significance. In addition to being disrespectful of Anangu culture, the high volume of visitors caused damage to Uluru. The path up the monolith started eroding, and trash and human waste was left at the top. The climb also isn't particularly easy. There have been 37 recorded deaths over the years, plus many more people who were rescued after becoming stranded. Anangu people put signs up to dissuade tourists from climbing the mountain, and slowly but surely the number of climbers started decreasing. In 1990, around 70% of visitors attempted the climb. By 2010, that number had dropped to 30%. But it wasn't until 2019 that the route was officially closed and all of the guide chains were removed. Which forbidden mountain would you want to see from a safe distance? Tell us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible documentaries about forbidden places, lost civilizations, and mysteries that continue to fascinate the world. Until next time, stay curious. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on such interesting and mysterious information.